Well, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about my October TBR. October is one of my favorite reading months that I love spending with creepy books, so that's what you'll get here. And honestly, my TBR got a bit out of hand, so I think I will start with the books that I have here physically, and then I'll talk about some audiobooks I would like to read and also some books that I don't yet own that I would like to read, which, you know, looking at this stack right here, I don't really need any more books to read, but we'll see how it goes. So let's start out with the 3 books that I actually own that I would like to read this month. And these books are both inspired by TV shows. So we have The Turn of the Screw and Other Ghost Stories by Henry James, which was the inspiration for The Haunting of Bly Manor, which I absolutely loved last year. So I am intrigued to read this original story and then also the other ghost stories that are in here. And then we obviously have The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, which was the inspiration of The Haunting of Hill House. So this one has a little bit of a different storyline than the TV show, because this doesn't focus on a family but on 4 random people. There is a occult scholar, his assistant, the heir of the estate, and a random woman that is there as well. And it's about them facing the haunting of Hill House. And with The Turn of the Screw, you have the basic story of a governess coming to this manor to watch over 2 children. And this is supposed to be like really vague and kind of like, you know, depending on how you interpret the things that are happening. And then the last book I own that I would love to read is The Five. This is nonfiction by Hallie Rubenhold, and this is a historical non-fiction work about the women that were killed by Jack the Ripper. I had a time in my life when I was obsessed with Jack the Ripper, and yeah, this focuses on the victims and tries to show what their lives would have been like, to kind of break up the stereotype that they were just prostitutes, and it's trying to piece together their lives. So I think that will be very interesting, and if I don't read it this month, I'll definitely read it in November. Next up, I have a ton of library books. I really went all out there with the library books, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna read all of them, but with a couple I am really sure, so let's just get into it. The first one I have is Conjure Women. This one is by Afia Atakora. I haven't looked up how to pronounce the name, so I hope it wasn't like too horrible. I don't really know what this book is about, but it sounds intriguing. The description says the pale-skinned, black-eyed baby is a bad omen. And so we're following women in a black community, I think after slavery was abolished, but I'm not quite sure in which time period this is set. And basically, yeah, just this baby is born and then horrible things start happening. So yeah, it sounds really, really interesting. And since I don't really have like a very firm idea what this is about, I'm all the more intrigued. Then I found Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. And this one was very popular a couple of years ago. This is the first one in a duology, and it basically follows America after the Civil War, and they are starting to have a zombie problem, and they're starting to train black kids to fight these zombies. So I'm really intrigued to read this. It had such high praise, and yeah, I was so glad to find this copy. So I'm very sure that I will read this very, very soon, hopefully in October. Then one book I will definitely read, because I'm doing a special reading vlog for October, which this book will fit into, is Broken Things by Lauren Oliver. This is a book that I had on my wishlist like for a very, very long time, but it just never was like high up enough to actually get read. I don't really know what to expect from this one. It's a YA thriller, and it's about two girls. They were a group of 3 girls, but they disappeared in the woods, I think, and then one girl was dead, and everyone thinks that the other 2 did it, but that is not the truth. And this is, I think, a couple of years later, 5 years later, and we may find out what actually happened there. Then another book where I don't have the highest expectations, but I found it in the library and I was like, you know, if I don't love it, it doesn't really matter. And that is The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. I have heard that this book has a little bit of issues with consent, because this has, I think, a kind of possession plotline. So this is set in a town called Sparrow in Oregon, and in 1820, I can't talk, there were 2 girls burned as witches, or like killed as witches. I think they were actually drowned, and they return every now and again, and yeah, kind of cursed the town, I guess. So this has like these kind of witchy, eerie vibes that I just can't stay away from. So I want to give it a try. We'll see what I think. Maybe I hate it, and I'll definitely let you know if I do. Another book where I don't have the highest expectations. I feel so bad. This is the 3rd book in the Lockwood and Co series. I absolutely loved the first one, The Whispering Staircase. It was so good, and it really surprised me. The second one was pretty boring, and the problem is that I don't know if it's the books or if it is because I read this first one in English because my library had it in English, and then I read the second one in translation because all the further books are just there in German. So I don't know. I decided to just get this one from the library. If I feel like I'm in the mood for it, I will try it. But if it reads as boring as the second one, I will probably not continue with the series. But yeah, this is the 3rd book, and Lockwood and Co basically follows this historical England where they have a ghost epidemic, and kids are the only ones who can really see ghosts, so they are trained and used by corporations to fight the ghosts. And Lockwood and Co is the only kind of yeah, what do you call that? Like, it's not a corporation, but like a small firm where only teenagers work together and try to defeat evil ghosts and stuff like that. So, as I said, I'm not quite sure about that one. Then another surprise find in the library was The Crazier by Kim Liggett. Again, haven't looked up the name, not quite sure about that. But this is also the German translation, so we'll see about that. The YA translations are always the worst, to be honest. But this one is supposed to be similar to the setup of The Handmaid's Tale. You have this society where girls have to go into the woods for 1 year because when they're like in puberty, they get like really powerful, and so that they can be obedient wives, they have to spend that year in the woods, and when they come back, they can marry and be good wives and stuff like that. So definitely more of a feminist twist, and I'm very intrigued to read this. As I said, just not so sure about the translation thing. And the last library book is one I have had for forever, and it's either I read it now or I bring it back unread. But it's The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I think this is historical fiction, and it is inspired by an actual woman who used to poison men. After hearing that this is based on an actual person that existed in history, I'm so much more intrigued to read this. So I think this will probably be like the first book I pick up, just because it has to go back to the library soon, and it's also very short. So yeah, I think I'll start with this one. So that's the library book. Now let's talk about the audiobooks that I definitely want to get to. I usually manage to read like 2 to 3 audiobooks in a month because I like to take my time with them. Now the first one I've just started is Small Favors by Aaron A. Gregg, and that is the second book by the author. The first one was The House of Salt and Sorrows, and I really liked that one. So it's kind of like a dark fairy tale-esque story. With Small Favors, you follow that city that, or like town, that really reminds me of The Village, that weird movie, because it's a very secluded town and they have these supply runs to get stuff that they can't produce themselves twice a year. And when we start the story, one of the supply runs didn't end well. All the people were killed. And now they don't really know what's out there in the woods, if they're still safe. And it follows this girl, her family, her twin brother, I guess. I haven't really gotten so far into it. So that's the main setup and I'm really intrigued by it. And the other one is, I think, called The Haunting of Lee Barker or Harker, something like that. It's the new book by Darcy Coates. I always listen to a Darcy Coates book in October. She does really good like haunted house stories, very traditional, but just the kind that I like. So that's on my plan for sure. And then there's a couple of other audiobooks that I might try. We'll see if I get to a third one, but I haven't decided on that one yet. So there's obviously lots more books I would love to get to, but there's only one that is like really set on my TBR, and that is Sorrowland by River Solomon. I have read their other book that came out last year about the mermaids, The Deep it's called, and really enjoyed that one. And I heard mixed things about Sorrowland, but I still think it sounds intriguing whenever people talk about it, and it sounds very eerie. It's about this woman who escapes from a cult when she's pregnant, and she, I think, has twins and lives with them in the woods, but it's also like very psychedelic. I don't know, I just really want to try it. So I think that's one that I might buy, maybe as an ebook. I'll see about that. But as I said, if I look at this stack here, I'm all set with books. So yeah. This would be my October TBR, but I would love to hear what you're planning on reading. I have this huge list of books that I have just collected that I want to read, and especially in October. So every year it's so hard to narrow it down. We'll see. I'd love to hear what's on your list, and I will talk to you soon. And I want to upload a lot more in October. So please subscribe if you want to see that. Yeah, bye!